Happy New Year, everybody. What's going on? Welcome back to the show. I am the co-host with the most, Ian, and joining me as always is Captain Para, the host of RadioActive. And today we are joined by Michael Ayley of Marianas Trench. Michael, what's going on, man? How are we feeling?
The guest with the vest. Actually, it's a hoodie, but whatever. It's going well. Happy New Year to you too.
Good deal. Good deal. Mike, I kind of want to kick things off. First things first, I love the name Marianas Trench. I've heard of you guys often, and I recently started listening to you because I knew you on the show. But where did you get that badass name aside from the obvious, it's the deepest part of the ocean? Is that something that just kind of came
You know,
naturally, or?
it was a name that it was a trial name a long time ago that kind of we got stuck with at that point because a radio station in town started playing our music with that name. We're like, well, we can't change it now. But it's from a long time ago. I don't even know the true significance, but it seems to be significant or distinct enough to do the job.
I like it. I can dig it, man. It's really, really cool. It's like a really badass name. Like, yeah, we're Marianas Trench, dude. Don't fuck with us. We're coming for you. Or I don't know, some gangster shit like that. You know what I mean?
You're so gangster.
No, dude, it's awesome. I
Our
love it.
five-part harmonies or four-part harmonies.
All right. So the first question is, you have a new album out. It's called Haven. And we just kind of want to know what the process was like making the album. How does each member contribute to the writing process, and does the album differ from the last few albums that you guys put together?
Okay. What was the very first part? I got the second two, band contributions and process. But okay, new album is Haven. We've sort of have a similar process we've been using the last few albums. The first one we had brought in a producer and did all the demos and then recorded all the songs, and then the second album we kind of did the same thing with most of it. But by the third album, we started just recording the final version as we were going, noticing that not necessarily is it better, but the inspiration is there. It's fresh, and you can get this really cool vocal take, and you get that thing when sometimes you try to recreate it, it just doesn't happen. You don't know why, but that thing that gives you the goosebump isn't there. So just get it right once, and then and build around it. With our albums, we're always sort of writing as we go, and often Josh is the key writer. We are more like a sounding board. Sometimes we'll have suggestions for parts here and there, but more like arrangement of the parts that Josh has presented. Because usually he'll be like, maybe you could do this here or this or this. What do you think? And then it's like, band feedback. But he's a very, very strong writer, so he doesn't need a lot of contributions from us, other than taste and refinement, I guess, because he can sometimes have too many ideas. Josh has his own studio, so the cool thing about that is we kind of can take our time and try a lot, and because of that, we do take our time. So the albums don't really come out in a hurry, but if you listen to them, the attention to detail is second to none. Literally, it's flawless stuff. Josh will spend 8 hours just getting the right bass synth tone on a song one day that most people won't notice. You probably feel it, and if it was the wrong tone, you'd probably notice. But just getting the texture, whether it's the saw or something, and it can be really fun doing that. Some days it's like a little bit like, oh man, can we just make a move? And you're really excited about where it's going, but you got to build a house from the foundation up. We all do as much singing as possible. There are some of the vocal pads are really specific with the sort of the way they're performed. So Josh will layer his own vocals. There are times where it's really critical that it's all of us singing different parts, so you can hear the contrast, like in Worlds Collide, that sort of throwback to Masterpiece Theater 3, that kind of stuff. Had to be that way. But some of the times it's just who's at the studio that day with Josh, because when you're recording for, it takes almost a year for us to do an album once we start. Not everybody is there every day except for Josh. Actually, he's not even there every day, which is why we don't just schedule it in because he goes whenever he can. But life is life. But differences from this album to previous, there's more analog synths. In the past, we were using a lot of in the box stuff. If you know what that means, it's sort of like plugins and stuff on the digital desktop audio workspace. The DAW, whatever it actually stands for. But this time we actually had physical keyboards and they're analog. And the cool thing about that is you can get some more interesting tones and textures and all that stuff, but you kind of have to get it when you get the tone right, because trying to find it again on something with all these dials, it's never the same twice. So if it's really good, just you can get it close, but if you got it perfect, then you don't want to mess with it. But I don't know. I feel like it's similar to the last album, other than the writing goal, because the album theme is different. So the purpose of each song might have been different and more intentional than in the past, where sometimes you're just going for a cohesive vibe. But this one, I don't know if you know, the album sort of loosely follows the hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell thing. So there's a lot of plot points that need to be hit in the common epic kind of tale. And then you got to figure what song goes where to fill that plot point, but then also flow as an album if you didn't know that was the goal. So that it actually ended up being a little bit tougher to accomplish than we thought. Or maybe it's as hard as I thought it would be. When Josh first mentioned it, he thought, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this thing," and I was like, "That doesn't sound that easy. I love it, but it doesn't sound that easy." And later on, he's like, "Oh my God, what have I got myself into?"
Yeah. Well, I think as a whole, like the album sounds amazing. Like you said, it's like a lot of like the synth and stuff, and it's very extravagant, and I think it's super cool. Anytime you guys announce you're releasing an album, even though now I'm more in the rock metal scene, I still get as excited as I did years ago because I just know how much work you guys put into those albums, and they always come out sounding fantastic.
Yeah, and I never even thought all the symphony stuff. But one thing that I thought was cool, you mentioning the rock thing, is on this album, some of the heaviest guitar stuff we've ever done is on it. And I think like as soon as A Normal Life comes in and then you hear that first chorus, you're like, oh my God, they're like, in that way, we're back. Like we're really back. And the end of Turn and Run is my favorite thing to play in the show.
Yeah. You guys released 4 singles off of the album before the album came out, right? Was it 4? Or
Yeah,
was it 3?
it ended up being four.
Okay.
It's funny. I don't even think any of the guys in the band were totally aware of the fact that Down to You was also going to be released like a few days before, or a week before the album came out, whatever it ended up being. Because we did A Normal Life and we didn't want to just do a single as the first one, so the fans would hear like a real, like one of the chunky album tracks, and then Lightning and Thunder, because that was like more of a radio friendly length and format and sonically sort of production. And then we thought, why don't we, for the third one, just start releasing it in order rather than jumping around the album? And so we did. And then the label did Down to You. And maybe we knew. The funny thing is, that's like the most heavily streamed song on the entire album. And we thought it was just like, oh, we'll just make it like a quiet bonus scratch track kind of thing. And who knew?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that kind of answered my question. I was going to ask like what the process is behind deciding what the singles are going to be off of the album before it's released.
Yeah, there are lots of, I mean, believe me, there are still questions every day. Like we were discussing whether we like, oh, do we actually like service Down to You to radio and stuff? Is it too rock, or is it too pop, or depending which way you go? And then it's still a conversation, because the strategy with that part of it, whether you release them as singles like to the DSPs, there's one strategy, but then actually trying to like use it into a radio or whatever you want to call it type of song is a whole different combination or conversation.
I definitely got the when I started listening to you guys initially, I'm like bobbing my head, and I'm like, okay, this kind of reminds me of like a Michael Jackson or a Fall Out Boy, where you get a little bit of pop and then you get that dash of rock and roll, and you get like this pop rock cocktail, if you will. I jive with it a lot. I really do. I think it's a good sound. I like it.
Yeah, I
Like
think
it a lot.
that's sort of us, is a little bit unpredictable pop rock. That's not a bad way to put it.
No, I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. Well, it's good to like shake things up and try different things too. I feel like that's always good to be experimental with music. I think that's a huge step that people take, like A Day to Remember, or Beartooth, Black Veil Bride, some of the bands that we like listen to on a regular basis. Like they're always trying to find new ways to spice up their. I think that you guys have done that with this album for sure.
It's really funny because when we did our second album, it was less rock than the first, due to resistances we were receiving. We're like, well, we can't really take away like the melodies and the harmonies. That's really what we do. So we just sort of brought the guitars down a bit and then went from there. But then, the third album was a little bit of a curveball from there, and we kept doing that, and it was really cool how the sun keeps getting in my eyes. It was really cool that our fans kept embracing the change, which for us means you can continue to grow in your production choices and songwriting and pushing the writing envelope. So honestly, we might have one of the best fan bases in the world because they are so open to it, and in fact, maybe expecting something different than the last album, while it still sounds like Marianas Trench.
That's a cool thing with you guys. No matter what you do, is you have that distinct sound. It's like 3 Days Grace. No matter what they do, you can tell it's 3 Days Grace.
Yeah, also really nice guys. Back when they thought we were a rock band, we played with them a bunch of times, like 10 times or so we would open up for them, and it was always weird because back then we were literally doing a cappella songs. And they're like, I hate everything about you, and you're like, ah, it's just so fun. It's so funny to see it. But they're also a really bunch of nice guys, man. The Canadian rock bands are usually all pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wait, is 3 Days Grace Canadian?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're from Peterborough, near
What?
Toronto. Yeah.
Yeah.
No shit.
I'm telling you, Ian, we got all the good bands up here.
That's what I'm saying, dude. You guys have Costco and you have 3 Days Grace. Costco's a pretty big, like, so for context, Michael, I'm from St. Louis, and
Okay.
Costco is like, now that I'm a big boy, like a big kid, I work full time and work for a living. Costco rocks, dude, especially if you're trying to like save money and stuff. And Victoria told me, oh yeah, we got Costco up here, and I'm like, that's good. Because
You didn't know we had Costco?
No, he did know we had Costco.
We also have milk.
Yeah.
What is your favorite song off of the new album?
Ooh. Well, it changes. It's funny because as a listener, it's probably one thing, and playing it live, it's probably something else. But live, it changes the most, because sometimes the songs are just hard. Like Worlds Collide has got a lot of information to remember when you're playing live the first 5 or 10 times you play it. But once you've like got it under your belt, it's like really enjoyable. I love A Normal Life. I love the heavy guitar parts. They satisfy me in a different way that not all the stuff does, but it also has like a lot of dynamics. And there's the right before the big guitar part, the leave tonight and run, like that, and then that big guitar riff. It's like such a cool contrast. And I think the cool thing about a lot of the heavy guitar parts we do is Josh does a really good job of setting them up really well, so they actually feel as heavy as they are. Whereas if it's just heavy, it can sometimes lose the impact. So A Normal Life is up there. I love playing Haven live because A, it's the last song, so you've done your job, but it's also the hardest one for me to sing. So I always feel good when I've accomplished that. I don't know, they're all fun in different ways. Listening to it, I'll tell you one thing, my 3-year-old likes Down to You best. That's the one I end up listening to the most, but upon her request.
Down to You is good. I like that one. That might be my favorite off the album, actually.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
like that one. And you guys, like you had mentioned, you were on tour. For how long was that tour? How many months was that?
We did USA for about 6 weeks. We were home for about 3, then did Canada for 4, and then had to do another week in the States because of the canceled stuff at the beginning. So I don't know. First show was supposed to be September 10th or 14th or something, and I got home December 19th with that break in the middle. It was pretty long. It's funny, actually. I got home on the 19th and the 20th. I flew right back to New Jersey for Christmas with my in-laws. So it was like I was home for less than 12 hours, then like traveling again. I was like, I'm just so tired.
Yeah. But yeah, you guys were on tour for quite some time. There's a lot I want to talk about with this actually. But just how was it all around? Like how was the US and Canada legs?
I'm far enough removed from it now to know that what I was feeling in the moment wasn't just the moment. It's my favorite tour we've ever been on. I think the fans were the most. I can't find a better word than it feels like when we go in these rooms. There was so much feeling of like mutual gratitude, where I felt so appreciated for the show we were putting on and welcome and joy. But I think the four of us also felt that because it's been a long time since we've done that kind of tour, especially maybe with those potentially or the canceled shows or postponed shows. But you didn't know what was even going to happen for a few days there with that tour. For us, like I felt my life slipping through my fingers, and all of a sudden you're back on road. It just felt so good. And I think for the people that were coming to the shows, there was some of that feeling in the room too. But it was really, really, really good. And we had great opening acts, like the nicest groups of people on the road. So it's like backstage, it was like friends and no egos and no competition, like encouragement, oh, you guys are awesome, but not like we're going to kick your ass. It was like, I can't wait to see how well you do today, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really, really great time. There was a point when there were 2 or 3 weeks left. I was like, I wish there was like 5 weeks left. Although when we got to the end, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. We got home and my voice was gone the next day. So
See, this tour, I went and saw you guys in Regina, did the VIP and everything, and one of the best shows I've ever been to. So this is why my
oh,
brain
good,
is so like
good.
I don't know what kind of topics to touch on because I have so many like I'd like to. But during the show, you sang All to Myself. You took lead vocals. And I can't remember, Matt did Who Do You Love, right?
Yeah.
So what was the process kind of behind that? Like how did that come to be? Because usually Josh is singing all the songs.
Yeah, so originally this wasn't like premeditated. We were about to play a show in Florida, the first one of the entire tour. Josh was like, I don't know if I can even do the show. And we're like, you got to do the show, buddy. You got to do the show. And he's like, I don't know. Can you guys help me out? Like maybe, he's like, Mike, maybe you can do Who Do You Love? I want to do All to Myself. And then I went home. Like this is right before the tour. And I was like, I can't sing Who Do You Love? It's like not in my registers, just too high. And then I was like, maybe I can do All to Myself though. So we got to the place and I said to Josh, I think I can do this one pretty well. And we did it for a few shows, and Matt jumped in and did Who Do You Love? And at first it was like, I don't know, a little awkward because it's just new, but the fans really reacted positively to it. So it started out with us just filling in the gap, and then the reaction was quite positive. So we decided to keep doing it, and then I think it's just going to be a thing now, and it gives Josh a little bit of a rest. And even on that note, some of the other songs we started like taking a couple lines here and there, so Josh could set up for like these, like in Haven, the baby keep your voice down, barely have a choice now. Like I started singing that because after that he's got a couple like really big notes that he can then like fulfill their potential live.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was really cool that you guys kind of got the spotlight for a couple songs.
Yeah,
Um,
it keeps me on my toes, I'll tell you that.
yeah.
All right. So, merch designs for this tour were fire. Do you guys have any say in what designs get put on the merch, or are you able to contribute ideas?
100%. That's my baby. The merch is my business. I don't do the designs, but I got all of the facets of the album artwork and took it to a super duper awesome social media guy in the past. He was the guy that came on tour with us for the entire Phantoms album cycle, and he designed all that tours stuff himself. But he's not with us this time. He has a stable local permanent job. So I went to him with all this stuff. I said, could we spend a day and just design a merch line? But I was like, I want a sweatshirt and a hoodie and a sweatsuit and a t-shirt and another t-shirt. And I was just like, I just want to make everything. I want a jacket. I want an umbrella. I want everything. Like, because usually it's like you try to keep it pretty streamlined, and I'm like, why? Let's just go for it. Like, and people loved it, and he really did an amazing job putting this together. But we literally sitting down and we're designing stuff together, and it was very, very satisfying to see the good reactions to the stuff we were making.
I loved merch. It was great. I walked up to the merch table and I was just like, I can buy two things, and I had no idea. I was like, everything is so cool, but I got a
Cool.
shirt and a hoodie, and then I was like, I gotta walk away.
It's perfect. Yeah, but that's perfect. Like you get, they're sort of different things. And anyway,
Yeah.
I'm seeing these messages from Ian right now. I'm like, I don't want to see these work messages popping up.
Oh,
There's
their
another
their their
Ian.
drummer's name is Ian. Ian, just so
Oh
you know.
yeah, sure, yeah.
Tell you something, us Ians, we got to stick together through thick and
You
thin.
sure do with
We
names like that.
we are not many. We are not many.
So, as we have been talking about, you guys have been a band for quite some time now and have achieved a lot of stuff along the way. I'm just curious to know if you could pick one piece of advice, of knowledge that you have now that you wish you would have had when you guys were starting out.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say to give to other people. If I don't know, yes, actually, there's one thing I wish we did differently or more of. In the very beginning, the summer of 2006, our album was not out yet, but we were living in Southern Ontario, playing a whole bunch of shows for $50 in Hamilton and Barrie and London and Kitchener and Toronto and just all over Southern Ontario. But we were living in my dad's house. My dad was out west for work, so there was an empty house for us to live in. So we were sitting around doing nothing most of the time and playing 2 or 3 shows a week. And every once in a while, we'd make these really stupid videos. Mostly we were posting them on like MySpace, and some of them we put on YouTube, and the fans loved them. And I wish we had known at that point how big video content like that was going to become with things like Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. And even YouTube wasn't even that big of a thing back then, like YouTubers. And if we had just done a couple of those a week as well as instead of 1 or 2 a month, and then kept it up, I think we probably would have reached more people earlier and had a chance to be a little bit more successful a little bit sooner. But everything's hindsight because you don't know what would have happened, right? Like we could have self-destructed if things had gone too quickly. I think the overall arc of our career has been pretty much perfect, but nothing wrong with being 20 or 30% bigger around the world. That's the one thing I think. That's the one chance we were actually on the front edge of it. Like we were doing it before people knew it was a thing, but neither did we. I wish we'd capitalized a little bit more on that.
I can dig it. Yeah, I'm usually on my phone every time I'm on the toilet or right before I'm like going to bed. I'm on my phone, like scrolling through, like, all right, what's funny, right?
Yeah,
It's huge now. It's like
yeah. The
gargantuan.
number one consumption place is social media stuff, I think so. And video games probably.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I have two questions for you, and one
Okay.
of which is our radioactive signature question. The other is something that I came up with, well, today, actually. So lately, me personally, I've been suffering from stress headaches, headaches that come from stress, migraines, if you will.
Physical
My
stress or
question,
emotional stress?
emotional,
Okay,
emotional stress.
perfect.
I want to know for you, what is a useful support system that you use when you're overstimulated or overwhelmed with emotions?
Yeah. So you just said emotional. I was like, I know what I do. This is a really hard time of year for me. We in Vancouver, today's a really nice sunny day, but often it can rain for 5, 10, 15 days in a row, and it's just gray, 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 and the sun rises late and sets early, and it's depressing. And Christmas happened, and I often get pretty depressed, dumpy feeling. However, the thing that always keeps me, my baseline, like if this is 10 and this is 0, and during this time of the year I feel like I'm down here, I can get my baseline up to like 5 all the time with exercise. We live in a pretty cool neighborhood where there's like mountains just up the hill, and In the summer and spring and fall, there's bears everywhere, and that's okay too because they mostly mind their own business. Well, so far, 100% mind their own business. But I go for walks, and I whether you want to call it meditate or manifest or just think of things that make me happy in the future, if that makes sense. So then I come back and I always go on these walks like, and then I come back and I'm like full of all of this positivity and joy and exercise and endorphins. So my lungs are expanded, my brain has been oxygenated, and I feel good physically and I feel good emotionally, and it keeps me from drowning. I have a family, so sometimes you just got to fake it to the best of your ability, and not every day is easy. Like the last couple of weeks after all that touring and stuff, I've been having quite a hard time getting energy back, but I have been exercising a lot, and at least I feel like I'm accomplishing something every day. If that makes sense. Like I'll go for an hour long hike up and down the hills and or to the gym or something. Like just getting that off your day, you're like, I did something for me, and it made me a little bit better than I was yesterday, no matter what the rest of the day does. And then if you can do anything else, it's gravy. And those are the hard days. And then the good days, you can take on the world, it seems like. And you're like, what else can I add to my list? And like, fuck that. Because tomorrow that list is still there. And if you're having a down day, you might look at that list and might just want to hide it under the covers. But still get out and do that exercise. And I like to put like 1 to 2 hours in, and if the time exists. Sometimes the weather is too rough to do it, but then you can always go to the treadmill, which is, it's okay.
Radioactive signature question. Here we go. Michael, you and the band Marianas Trench are on tour. One dark, stormy night. Your tour bus breaks down in the middle of nowhere. Your only place of refuge for the evening, from dusk until dawn, is a haunted house. Upon entering and getting settled in, you are haunted by a dead celebrity of your choosing. Who do you want to haunt you until dawn, and why?
Well, that's funny. We've played some haunted venues and we're pretty familiar with the haunting. Ian and I lived in a haunted house for a year, like haunted. We had a priest come and bless the place. So, that feeling I hate, but I'm familiar with. Who? Dead celebrity. Oh shit, right now, maybe Quincy Jones. Didn't he just pass away recently?
If it's, am I thinking of the right guy? Because I know, yeah,
With
he
the
did
brilliant,
pass
brilliant
away.
producer who like was also in like media, and he like got Will Smith his first big TV break and produced all the Michael Jackson stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That'd be cool.
Didn't somebody else say
I was
that
gonna say, I
too,
think
Victoria?
Justice said that, didn't he?
Who?
Yeah, he
Just
did.
Justice
Justice
Dixon. I
Dixon.
don't know if you know that name. He's a session musician in the
Oh,
LA
cool.
area. We had him on the show, and I'm pretty sure he said same answer too.
Maybe because it's recent, and I'm thinking of like one of the greats we recently lost that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Sure there are others that I'm not, but that one stands out. So
Yep.
that'd be cool.
Good. Good answer. I like it.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
Fantastic answer. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun. Good to have you back on the show.
Good to see you both.